Hi everyone, thanks for tuning into the Radults podcast, the podcast that highlights the stories of people who said fuck that to the idea that growing up means giving up on your dreams and instead turn those dreams into their reality. Today's guest is writer, director and part owner of Robot Army Productions, Ryan Chamley. Ryan made his scripted debut in 2017 with the viral online sensation Rostered On, amassing over 250 million views online and earning Rostered On enough of a following that Netflix acquired the series in 2018, making it the first independent long-form web series in Australian history to achieve that honour. In 2019, Rostered On's second series was commissioned by Seven Mate, making Australian television history as the first ever scripted comedy commissioned by the network. Ryan Chamley is our guest today on Radults.
As always, we tend to ask our guests to introduce themselves for our listeners and tell them who you are and what do you do.
Okay, my name's Ryan Chamley. I'm a writer and director. Probably best known for my show called Rostered On.
I like how succinct that was.
Yeah. I've done a lot of pictures where they're kind of like, you kind of need to tell them who you are and what you've done in like 5 seconds. And I find myself kind of rambling, giving them my life story. So I really worked on just going, this is what I do. If you know of me at all, it's probably because of this thing. If you haven't seen this thing, you don't know who I am, and it's all good.
Well, that sounds like the exact opposite of what we wanted you to do right now, because we're actually here to hear all about how you became a Radult, and that includes your long meandering stories.
That's fine. If you guys ask for it, that's cool. But I'm just going to launch into
it. Brilliant. Now, how did you wind up being Ryan Chamley, man behind Rostered On? What started your quest to being a Radult?
Well, the Ryan Chamley part was probably my parents hooking up, which I don't want to go into too much detail about, but the writer stuff I can speak to. It's been kind of crazy. So I guess Rostered On specifically came out of just like a lot of filmmakers. I've been doing the corporate and like ad hustle for a long time. Which I think a lot of creative people do. Like, you've got the stuff you want to be doing, and then you've got the stuff that is so close and that pays you, but it's not quite it. So for a few years, one of my best mates, Stu Ross, and we had this company called Robot Army, which just started literally over beers in a hotel. One night when we were on a shoot, we were shooting this golf trip, and we had like a DSLR each and a little bit of gear. And we're working together on this thing. We'd known each other previously, and we were like, hey, we should fully start a business together, because I hate shooting and you love it, and you hate editing and I like doing that. So let's, like, you shoot everything and I'll cut it all and we'll take over the world. The only caveat to that was I already had like a part-time job in retail at JB Hi-Fi. And I also was doing a little bit of teaching work, like teaching screen and media. So I said, look, so we don't have to rely solely on, video work to make a living, so we can reinvest and kind of, not have the money kind of thing hinder what we're doing, go and get a part-time job, and we'll do it part-time so that, we can still pay bills and stuff. So the next week he was like, hey, I've got a job at a snowboard shop. Let's do this. And then I think about a week and a half later, we'd made a company on paper, called Robot Army Productions. So we would, anything we shot, we'd like put everything into, like, we'd do a little video for anyone. It might be a local business, and we're like, yeah, why don't we do this? Like, all these like mad ideas, and they're kind of like, yeah, okay. Just because we wanted to have fun doing it. So we built up a pretty good name for ourselves in Geelong, Victoria, sort of doing branded work and TV commercials and that kind of thing. But I was always like, oh, this is cool. It's a great way to make a living, and I'm shooting and I'm being creative. But I really just want to be creating stuff like what I'm into. So I know that I'm not going to be able to make the next Terminator 2, but I reckon I could pull off a funny show that's like easy to shoot. So all those years working in retail for me was, I guess, fodder for this script I wrote, which was the pilot episode of Rostered On. And it was really, really long, 45 minutes. It was a 45-pager, which translates to about 45 minutes. And so we just thought, okay, this is kind of funny. I almost didn't show anyone because I was really self-conscious. I come from a background of like, you know, guys that sort of write and stuff like that. Like that's kind of a bit sissy. So I don't subscribe to that, and a lot of people don't. But that was just kind of the generation I grew up in. And Geelong's a very sort of like tough town, I guess. It's really cool and creative now. But back in the day, it was like, you know, dudes do this. You play sport and you work at Alcoa and you work at the factories. And so, yeah, I was quite vulnerable showing the script. And anyway, I did. Some people that I knew said it was funny. They could have been blowing smoke, I don't know. But we decided to go and shoot about 5 scenes. We just got a store for a day. I used Star Now to get some actors for free. We used the gear we had at work, like the cameras. And then when we watched the scene, it was kind of like a test. I'm like, okay, well, let's just see if what I wrote is funny. Let's see if I can direct, you know, actors to do stuff. And if it looks anything like what we watch on TV, it's cool. We'll keep going. But if it's like way off and there's some magic missing, then we'll just ditch it. So we watched the 5 scenes. They were really funny. And I was like, oh, man, if we just shot an intro and an outro, we'd have a pilot episode. And so we did that. And that's how we kind of Frankenstein the first episode of Rusted On. Like we had no money. We paid for it ourselves, like out of money that the business was making. But it was like none of the actors got paid. We paid a bit of money for the store, but it was all for the love of kind of doing it. And then yeah, that was a starting point. That kind of blew up on YouTube and Facebook. It went crazy. So we basically said, let's do a season in the same fashion. We're like, well, this is cool. No one's going to pay us to do it. I sent the pilot to one person at ABC, and he was really cool. But he was like, hey, look, this isn't for the ABC right now. And I took that as like, okay, fuck this. We've just got to do it ourselves. Like, no one's going to sort of trust us to do it. No one's going to give us money. So we did that. And we released that on YouTube. It went kind of crazy again. And do you want me to stop, or do I keep going through the whole thing? I've been talking.
Keep going.
Just keep going. Do our job for us.
So then, sorry, my son's just come in. Thanks, buddy.
I believe this is yours, Mr. Booby Stickman.
Okay.
That's Stacey.
All right.
Mom as a stickman.
All right, dude. Okay. He takes after me. So anyway, once I thought that was going to be the fate of Rusted On. We had it on YouTube. Every week it trended. We had about 250 million views on the short clips we released on Facebook, which was kind of the way we marketed it is a whole nother kind of chapter, which I can get into later if you want, but I'll just tell the story of how we got to here first, I guess. So from that, I got some, you know, I met Nick Bosher, who is from Bondi Hipsters, and Trent from Punchy. You know, we did a lot of, and we just hit it off. And, you know, both of us had success online. He really liked my work, and I thought Trent from Punchy was real. So I was really bummed out to find out he wasn't a real person. So we worked on another project called Jeremy the Dud, which is about a world where everybody has a disability, and the people that don't have disabilities are treated like people in our society with disabilities, which basically consisted of Nick Bosher just being shit on by people with disabilities, and just, it was really funny. Like, it was, you know, they just condescended him and treated him the way that people with disabilities get treated in our society. And we made a lot of really good friends on that shoot. We worked with some amazing talent. And then, so that kind of hit the roof. Like, we used the same marketing strategy to put that trailer out. And I guess to try and cut a long story short, it was a long story long in this case because I've been talking for ages. We ended up in the office of Netflix for this other show. And they basically said, you know, who are you? What have you done? And I did the spiel I gave you guys. And they said, oh, yeah, we should buy that show. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay, cool. And that was pretty much it for how Rusted On got Netflix. Like, you know, that Netflix part was actually really easy, but it was all that, like, 3 years of work getting to that point to make it easy that was kind of like the hard slog. So then Netflix bought it. We took it off YouTube. And then all of a sudden we found ourselves with a Netflix show. And then we had a bit of money from Screen Australia. They said, great work. Here's a little bit of money to do season 2. It wasn't enough for a full season, but we're like, wow, any money is more than what we had for season 1. And then Channel 7 got interested. And we were like, okay, well, someone at Screen Australia said, do you mind if we pitch Rusted On a Channel 7? And I was like, go nuts, because, you know, this isn't a network show. It's a dick and fart joke show. Like, and then we heard nothing for a month. And we're like, yeah, of course they're not going to do it. And then they sent us a contract, like for a second season, money on the table, and they said, look, we actually want to buy exclusivity. So basically Channel 7 came on board and funded season 2, which is now airing on 7 May at 9 o'clock on Wednesdays. I hope that wasn't too long-winded.
No, the only question I had the whole time through this, though, is just wanting to know, what's it like being like the most famous person that could ever go to like the Warren Ponds shopping centre?
Well, the footy players down here are like gods. So I'd say I'm a league under the footy players. But to be honest, man, no one notices me. No one knows who I am because I'm the writer. So I've been with the cast, like we've been hanging out, and they're like, oh my God, are you blah, blah, blah from Rostered On? And they're like, yeah, and they're chatting away. And I'm like, fuck you, I created this shit. Like, what do you, look at me, give me the attention. So there's a few people that have like recognized me from, I do these little stupid cameos. But I wouldn't call myself famous. And seeing how like people are around the actors and other actors have been around, I actually am quite happy with that.
Now, I'm interested. You went through all that very well and very professionally, very quickly. But it was, of course, a 3-year story that you were condensing.
Yeah.
I'm interested in knowing how you go from the point of, oh, we're going to do this and put it up on YouTube, to we have 250 million views. What steps did you have to take to achieve the viral status that you got, which then generated the interest from Netflix and 7 May?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I spent a long time playing music, like in a band and stuff like that. So I guess I learned, being in a band is really good for your entrepreneurial skill set, because you're always trying to put yourself out there. You've always got to be, rehearsing your craft. You've always got to be sort of coming up with new stuff. You've got to, you're just ingrained in this world, whether doesn't matter what genre it is. You're always aware of what's coming out of what country, what band's doing this. So the one thing I learned from that, and just having social media in general, and having a Facebook page full of other creatives, is that no one is going to do anything if you ask them to, because it's just a pain in the ass. Because everybody's like, hey, check out my demo. Hey, vote for my kid in the fucking Bonds modeling contest. Hey, watch my short film. Hey, share this, do that. And as soon as you do that, the eyes roll and you just scroll so fast. So we knew that we couldn't sort of beg our friends and family to do it. And we figured that that's kind of like everybody, like no one wants to be sold to. And we're too smart now. Like you see right through shitty advertising. So we were like, okay, we've got to be authentic and we've got to be kind of real about this. And so my kind of thinking behind it was, well, okay, we're doing this for exposure. So let's just not be precious about our name, about our branding, about anything. Let's just put it out there, and views are currency. So if people come and watch the show, that's great. If not, let's just try and get the views up. So we didn't make trailers as such. We just took little parts of the show and put them online as memes. And memes for a filmmaker are disgusting because they look hideous. Like you put all this time into shooting and framing and getting your lenses right and getting your color grade, and then you slap it in a 4:3 box that's not even like standard television resolution anymore, and you put this gross, ugly text on it, and that's what gets cut through as opposed to all your hard work. So we had little ones, and then I think I spent about $50 on one, and targeted people that worked in JB, people that worked in Harvey's, Good Guys, Officeworks, and then with like the views. So we did one, I think it said like tag a mate that's always late for work. We didn't say it was a show, didn't say it was anything. And we had people that weren't connected to us tagging other people. And we were like, fuck yeah, it's like, this is working, this is awesome. So we did a couple more, and we were getting like a few thousand views, and we were like, hey, this is pretty cool. And like just getting people to comment, seeing those first positive comments of like, oh, this is so us at work, was like, it would give us a legit rush. Like we were like, yes, people like it, this is a real thing. And then I put one up, and the Facebook rejected the sponsorship because there was too much text on it. I'm like, well, no one's going to see this now, it's not sponsored. And that one ended up being our first one that hit 1 million, because I think it just got it. I can't really explain how and why it got the numbers, but I think people just related to it, and we deliberately put stuff out so that people didn't have to think about it. They just watch it, have a little giggle, hit share, and move on. We didn't want to ask them to, hey, watch this show, do this or do that. It was just laugh, hit a button, move on, and they did. So the more people that saw it, the bigger our sort of small network of people that were like, oh, I wonder if that's a show, and would actually come back to the page and get invested in the show. The bigger that was. So we just kept putting videos out, and then we had two that went crazy. So one was we took the trailer of the show and put retail summed up in less than 2 minutes, and that went off its head. Like, it got millions of views. I think it's up to about 60 million now or 50 million on our side, but then we had viral sites like Unilad and Lad Bible emailing us. And I woke up to, so because of the time difference, I woke up to an email from Lad Bible, and I almost deleted it because I thought it was just like Christian like viral marketing or something. And I clicked it anyway, and I'm like, oh no, this is Lad Bible. Like, this is a pretty big deal. So they uploaded our clips. Comedy Central in the UK started uploading the clips. So once we had the tools right of like, okay, let's not promote ourselves. Let's just try and make people laugh and have just a little logo at the end and a YouTube name. The people that we're trying to reach are going to see it anyway, and they're going to come to us. So as in the process of getting those 250 million views, we watched our Facebook page grow from like 2,000 right through to, I think it's about 360,000 now. But it was all through, I like to call it like a trail of breadcrumbs. It wasn't like, hey, watch this show, please watch the show, share it, come on, support it. It was like, hey, how shit's your job? Laugh at this, share it if you think it's funny. And then it sort of evolved into people knowing it's a show. And when we released them all on YouTube, the page became they would talk about the show, and then it became like a page for people to vent about their job. And we get messages all the time that are just people complaining about their job, like no context to the show or anything. They're like, yo, this dude came in today and he like shit on the floor and I had to clean it. Anyway, see ya. Like, it's become like a bit of a counseling practice. So that was it, really utilizing the tools we had. And again, a lot of people are saying, hey, you should pitch to networks. You've got a whole season. And we're like, well, we have literally the world at our fingertips here with YouTube and Facebook. Like, we've got access to everyone we need to have it. So look, we're not chasing our money on this. We're doing this for our careers, for exposure. So let's utilize those. Let's utilize the platforms that everybody has in their pocket and can watch right away. Instead of trying to, a lot of filmmakers will do like a festival circuit, or they'll do, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. Like, it's quite a prestigious thing, but I mean, you'll sit there and you'll send it to someone and then you wait, and then you're sort of sitting there, not doing anything. And then you're relying on 5 people that may or may not be actually qualified to, well, I don't think anyone's qualified to critique anything, but you're waiting on 5 people to put it in this festival where a cinema of 30 are going to see it. And so, after a year, maybe 100 to a few thousand are going to see this film with no context in an environment where they can't do anything, they can't share it, they're in cinemas. Whereas when it's in their own home, they can tag people, they can comment, our audience builds our hype for us. So we sort of focused on, for this one, giving it away. We're like, okay, we're not going to make money, let's give it away. But then our next project, people go, oh, you're the guys that did Ross and on for nothing. Okay, well, we trust you now, here's some money. But it's just funny, though, that ironically, we were able to get paid for season 1. We were able to back pay all the actors, like everyone got their money back that it was invested, and we got paid to do season 2 through giving it away, essentially.
I think that's the way to do it. I mean, you see that, the last year or so, more and more viewers are moving away from, hard copy DVDs and Blu-ray and towards streaming like Netflix and YouTube, Hulu, all those sort of things. Do you find that makes it easier or harder for a filmmaker?
It depends. Like, it's, I guess, in my opinion, it makes finding your audience easier, but you've got to, a lot of people will just sort of make something and that's where the project finishes. Like, when you finish the film or the show or whatever it is, like, the art that you're creating, that's only like, you've only hit 50%. Like, then you've got to get it in front of the people, in front of your audience. So I think YouTube and social media is amazing for that, because literally anybody can make something and put it out there in the world. You've just got to be a bit clever about how you market it. Whereas beforehand, it was just a very select few that got to make things that were seen. So I think it's easier, but at the same time, you've just got to make sure that what you're doing, you can't just make anything anymore. Like, you know, I always say to people, like, people are always trying to do something they think will be successful. And it's like, well, no, like don't backwards engineer it. Just make what you want to make. Do what you give a shit about, because I guarantee someone else out there will give a shit about that, and it'll be real and authentic, and they'll connect with it, as opposed to you trying to backwards engineer something that you think people want to watch, and then it's coming out with this stuff with no heart because, you know, it's made not organically. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mike's a writer himself, so I think he'll absolutely understand where you're coming from regarding doing things that are authentic and that are coming from your unique perspective. And as a musician myself, I can relate to that as well. You can instantly tell when something isn't coming from the right place as far as an artist is concerned.
There's nothing worse than buying like the sophomore album of a band that you loved, and it's completely different, and you know exactly who they've tried to sound like. Or when you watch a second season of something and it's completely different because they think that that's what people are into.
Yeah, it can be really frustrating, and it's good to see that someone managed to cut through with what they were wanting to do, and the way you marketed it. To me, is actually a work of low-brow genius, in all honesty.
Thank you.
Realizing the worth of the meme and exploiting it. It must have been so hard to make that leap, though, for you with your with all your filmmaking abilities, to accept that that's what people want from you.
It was, man. It was really like, it killed my business partner in DP a little bit. Like, he's like, I don't even want to see these things, man. Like, but I mean, you look at what's being shared and what's current, and you can't expect people to. You got to meet people where they're at. You can't just expect them, because your work is so much more important to you and is so much better to you than it is to anyone else. Like, to you, it's like life's work. To them, it's like, I don't know, just another thing that you do. It's like, so. Yeah, you can't just sit there and going, I made something, worship me. It's like you got to get it out there.
I think that's really valuable advice. It's actually a pretty good tip for being a Radult, which is a part of this podcast. So we'll mark that down as don't make things and expect people to worship you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's where I was going wrong. Okay, I get it now.
I just picture you there in like the white gown, like eating grapes. Like, fuck, why is no one worshipping me yet?
I think that's the biggest issue. Like, either, as a filmmaker, a writer, a musician, anything, like, people can devour whatever work you make, whether it be like a novel, a movie, an album, and it's always going to take longer to make that thing, more time, more effort than anything, than even watching or reading or, listening to. It could take 3 months to record a 30-minute album, or all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of frustrating.
Yeah, and I mean, so if you're gonna spend that long on it, make it something that you want to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that's brilliant. Now I understand that you've managed to make all this happen while having 4 kids.
Yeah.
Jeez, do any of them have the name Meme? Like, did you go, I'm gonna name my firstborn child like Meme?
Yeah. So it's Meme, and then like middle name's Lord, Meme Lord Chamley.
Yeah, I like it. Classy and understated.
No, it's look, it's just, I mean, you do what you got to do. Like, I've got, like, our family is super tight, and we're kind of like, I couldn't do it without their support. So, for example, we're up 3 weeks shooting Rostered on season 2, but the kids I think the kids came on set for like a few of those days, like they were calling action. 3 of my kids are actually in it. So my son plays the lead in season 1's son, and my 2 daughters are in these like dishwashing servants of the psycho chef in season 2. But in terms of, I mean, yeah, it was, I guess it actually is better having a family, because it keeps me kind of real. Like, success online is like, it's a little bit addictive when it first happens, because every time you refresh the page, there's another comment about someone talking positively about your work and laughing at it. And that's like, creatives are an insecure bunch, so you kind of get off on that and you refresh it. You can't get enough. And then so you can get this sense of self-importance, which I try and avoid. And I think, going back to what we said before, like, it's just part of that. Like, creatives often get quite a buzz and want to be worshipped and stuff like that. So, having that internet buzz and then sort of going to the next room and your kids not really understanding or really giving a shit about it, and you're just dad to them is really cool. And it keeps it real. It's like, yeah, actually, you know what? No, none of these words on a white screen matter. Like, it's nice, but like, in terms of, it gives this sort of a higher purpose. And my oldest is in high school now, so like some of her friends have seen it and stuff, and that's always a bit horrifying, knowing that the sort of content that came from some dark places in my mind are being watched by sort of 14-year-old girls. That was something I wasn't expecting. And then, like, you'll meet their parents and like, oh, he's the one that makes the show. And then they give you that look of like, oh yeah, penis-shaped tampons, right? Okay, good. You're the one. My daughter's staying at your house tonight. Okay, great. Like, yeah, it gets a bit.
I like it a lot. And I guess talking about, how people perceive either Rostered On or anything that you work on, I do want to touch on Rostered On, which was, with reviews, there were definitely like a huge, vast spectrum of that. You had, for instance, like The Guardian not being too crash hot on it, whereas IMDb 100% was the other direction. I mean, clearly The Guardian are wrong and just out of touch, so like they're just wrong. But like, what's that like, and how do you sort of, I guess, like, balance it out? And what one, I guess, do you try to, if you had to feed off one, do you go for?
It's a bit of a head fuck, man, if I'm honest. Like, there's so many sides to it. So the Guardian, like, didn't just smash Rostered On. Like, they like smashed me personally. So they were like calling me juvenile and stuff, and it was so clear that they hadn't watched they watched like part of an episode. So I guess there's part of you's like, oh, I don't care, blah, but then there's part of you like, fuck, that's like a national paper. Like, people just, it's a weird feeling having people like shit on you publicly, like so publicly. And then the IMDb thing was epic until like our IMDb got hacked, believe it or not. And this is a good lesson to learn. So negative feedback I used to reply to. So we'd get a negative comment on YouTube, and I'd spend a fair bit of time like looking at the person's profile, and I'd read their comment, and I'd look at their page, and then there was one dude that did like bass covers, and they weren't very good. So I was like, maybe learn to play bass before you go shitting on my show, like just fully like slamming people. And then there was a dude on Twitter who had some words to say about the show, and I went back at him, and it became this whole back and forth thing. And the last tweet he sent was, oh, hey, how's your IMDb score going? And he tanked it, man. And it's still not, it was at 8.4, and he got it down to a 2.8 overnight, using a bot to obviously give us a heap of one star things. And so I couldn't get it back for ages. And then IMDb removed them, and then they got it back. So that was a pretty important lesson in that you just need to shut up and not respond to that negative stuff. If I just let that tweet go, we'd have an IMDb rating of still around 8.5, 9, where at the moment I think we're around a 6, even though all the episodes are 10 out of 10 and stuff like that. But the energy you spend on those one or two, like we've got thousands of 5-star ratings on Facebook. Like we've got comments literally every 5 minutes on a different video being like, I love this show, yada, yada, yada. But for some reason, that negative energy just gets in your head, and you can't, like I used to get really defensive about it, and now I'm like, okay, I've just got to stop. So to answer your question, I was just telling that little story to anyone out there that fucking replies to the negative, like just don't, because they want you to do that. Trolls only post because they want you to respond, and they're going to respond again. It's not like any trolls ever read a response and be like, oh, you're right. Actually, I apologize. They're just going to come back harder. So you got to like, and part of being a successful creative is just rising above that stuff. But to answer your question, I actually tried not to look at either now, because I think, the work is made and it's nice to see people enjoying it, but then, you can't try and get too much validation out of that. You can't feed off that, because then you instinctively try and just, put that into your next project. You're going to start looking at, what people want. If you're responding to that positive feedback, you're going to start thinking, oh, what are my fans going to say or the show's fans going to say when we put this out? When I'm writing a storyline, I'm like, oh, what are those people on Facebook going to think? So I think in moderation, like, it's good to look at it for time, but I'm actually trying to reel back from everything. Like, I'm trying not to look at, what people say the day after we air, stuff like that. Even though I know a lot of it's going to be good, trying to get myself out of that habit of trying to get validated by people I've never met before. I've got enough good people around me. I guess I've got to be validated by the work itself, not just the opinions of people I've never met and could be serial killers for all I know.
Yeah, I think that there's also like an art in how to like deal with trolls and everything like that. So I mean, look, obviously you learnt the hard way how to do that, but yeah. I at least applaud the effort gone to I guess troll this guy. And I mean, to be honest, talking about being shit at bass is a bit of a sick burn, because I mean, like, who can be shit at bass really? So I want to have a little bit of fun with you, just a little bit. So I'm going to list a couple of projects that you've worked on, and I need you to say 3 words to describe them to a everyday viewer.
Okay, let's do it.
So we have Trey.
Kid kills zombies.
Jeremy the Dud.
Oh man, okay.
This one you got to be, careful on, right?
Yeah. Revenge for minorities.
Oh, that's so safe. Yeah, okay, that's good. That's good. See, you're very good at this pitch-in stuff. And the very last one is Rostered On.
Can I do 4 for Rostered On?
Okay, you can have 4.
Dick jokes with heart.
Okay, yeah, cool. Well, I've also now signed a deal. You're going to be on Amazon, YouTube Red, and everything like that based on those pictures. I obviously have those credentials, power to do that. So,
what do they call it? The elevator pitch.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
That's it. I also want to have some fun with you, man.
Let's do it.
So I want you to give me the pitch you would make for a sitcom based on Ryan the Dadult.
Oh, okay.
Oh, the Dadult. Oh, get out.
Okay, so, oh man. Okay, the pitch. Right. So, Dadults is a comedy about a dude in a band who skateboards, who he and his girlfriend get pregnant at 19. And then they sort of freak out, but like, no, fuck this, we can do this, we can do anything, we're going to be family and it'll be rad. So instead of just working at factories, they both hustled and, studied and did what they want to do. And then it's, oh man, this is a hard one.
I stumped the writer.
Okay. I need to shorten it. Okay. Dadults is about not doing what people think you should as a parent, and showing your kids that you can do whatever you want and make a living out of it, and you don't have to go work in some shitty office or shop or factory just because you had sex.
I'm getting a real after special feel to this. That
was.
I mean, like, here I was thinking, like, this is sort of like, like 12:30 a.m., like after infomercials, Channel 31 sort of thing. But I think.
Oh, no.
You're like, I don't do anything if it's not in prime time. Like, get rid of Pack for the Rafters. Like, here we are.
Is that even a show?
Not anymore.
That was a massive show, but it was very like very PG. And I actually said to Michael Horrocks, the head of comedy at Channel 7, in our very first conversation, he was like, hey, I love the show. And I'm like, hey, look, this is amazing, but like you're not expecting me to write like Packed to the Rafters, are you? Like you've seen our show, right? And he laughed and said, no, that's why we want you because of season 1. But yeah, it was definitely like the measuring stick of like, what is very PG.
I like it. So I guess we start wrapping it up now, and all this. So I guess I want to know what sort of local talent, whether it be Melbourne, Australia, Geelong, anything like that, have you worked with that people should check out? What stuff they should be in there. Obviously, plug your own stuff, and then we'll bring it to a close.
Yeah, man. Far out. There's so much. Like all the actors in Rostodon are doing brilliant stuff. I mean, obviously Nick Bosher is in a ton of stuff. Like Bondi Hipsters. If you haven't seen Trent from Punchy, like treat yourself. If you can get on to and we've got a massive cast, so we can't name all their projects, but get on our Facebook and our IMDb and check out the actors because they're guns. We have Robot Army have a documentary coming out soon called The Hunt. Which is about the hunt for the Otways Panthers, like the big cats you hear stories about. So we're like interviewing these people that chase them full time, and it's a pretty cool and intriguing tale. We've also, if you haven't seen Jeremy the Dud, it'd be great if you guys could check that out. It's on YouTube, and we've just gone into development with Princess Pictures to do all of like Chris Lilly's stuff, which should be fun. And I myself am actually starting a podcast in a couple of weeks called The Unconventional Filmmaker, where I talk to producers and filmmakers from all over the world. And doing what I do, I've been really lucky to have met some pretty amazing people. So it's all about, how to get your stuff out there and not just following the conventional channels. So I think episode 1, I've got the producer of South Park, Debbie Liebling, and she's really cool. We've got Rick Kalowski from the ABC and a ton of other really cool guests coming up. So it'd be great if people could check that out and watch Rusted On 7+ and on 7 Mate at 9 o'clock Wednesday nights.
I guess, as Trent would say, that's heap sick, eh?
Yeah, that's fucking sick.
Now, do you have any more information about Jeremy the Dud? What's happening with that?
Yeah, so we've gone into development with Princess Pictures. We've just been given some development funding from Screen Australia. So we're in the process of it's actually really disappointing. I can't talk about who we've been speaking to, but there's some pretty massive stuff happening with Jeremy. That's all right. We'll do a follow-up. Yeah. I'm like, just I've been able to meet some heroes of mine through this process. Actually, someone I can talk about that's not involved with the process was I got to meet Mackenzie Crook and have a meeting with him, who's Gareth from the UK office, around that project. So, but we've been meeting with a ton of amazing actors, like world class, and even like our current cast of Chloe Hayden and Adam Bowers and Sam Humphries. Sam was in The Greatest Showman. It's a really exciting project. So we're sort of launching into that. That's my sort of next gig. So there's a pilot on YouTube you can check out, and then which stars Nick Bosher as Jeremy the Dud. And what's cool about that is actually every single person on screen has an actual disability. We had no one pretending, from everyone from the main actors to the people in backgrounds to every extra. So every single person you see, apart from the duds, who are the able-bodied people. Actually, we don't say able-bodied. That's not a great thing to say. But it's completely authentic. So it's a lot of fun.
Sounds amazing, and I reckon it's going to be a hit when it does come out. That pilot's really awesome. I enjoyed watching it. I think it's an area that will generate a lot of positive publicity, that's a good thing. Yeah, it's inspiring seeing people actually step outside what others consider to be normal, and making an effort to tell stories that perhaps wouldn't otherwise get told. So good on you for doing that.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I feel like I had to do something a bit more highbrow after Rusted On. A lot of my character development kind of gets lost through the jokes and through the crassness and I guess the shock value. So it's nice to work on something that's a bit more not highbrow, but it's just nice to, a lot of people watch that and oh, okay, he doesn't just write sketches. Cool. It's that kind of thing. So it's nice.
That's amazing. Now, most of your episode has really been one big long tip for being a Radult. But do you have any other tips that you would have for other people looking to get into being a filmmaker or an editor or really anything, in all honesty, in the creative fields?
Yeah, man, it's literally just, I can't stress this enough. It's literally just the decision to go from thinking about it all the time and going from a might to, oh, I'm doing that. As soon as you say to people, I'm doing this, and you're taking the steps, you're contacting the people, then you're doing it. That's literally all it is. It's I can go from talking about one day I want to make a feature film to going, typing the title of that feature film in Final Draft, and then all of a sudden it's a script and the script's forming, and all of a sudden I'm writing a feature film instead of talking about doing it one day. Whatever it is that you want to do, whether it's music, it's just okay, well, fuck it, put an ad out, try and find a guitarist, try and find a vocalist, or start going to shows and saying to people, start writing songs, sending it to people, get a SoundCloud account. Writers have it the easiest because you literally just type. That's it. You're
That's it.
Bang, done. So I think it's just setting the wheels in motion, and everybody knows some next step. That's not like your hands are tied. If you're going to write something, you open Word or Final Draft, or what do you write with, But it's just literally doing it. A lot of people try and over prepare. Preparation's good, but I think you just learn as you go. You fake it till you make it, and you just fucking get in there.
Get in there. That is definitely another tip for being a Radult. I think you're being very greedy with these tips and should leave them to other Radults. No.
That's the stuff I'm most passionate about. Because we literally, if I can do it, man, anyone can do it. We got that was literally all we did that was different to other people. We just did it. It's so simple.
Fucking Nike.
Yeah, right. Right. I should get him an endorsement.
Yeah, that would work. Just be sure to kneel.
I might tell him I'm like, yo, I plugged you on Radults. Can I get some shoes?
Just be like, I sat during Advance Australia Theatre. Can I have sponsorship, please? And they'll be like, yeah, sure, take it. I don't care. I'm sure you did it in a political thing. No, my legs hurt. Well, here you go anyway.
Just don't do it in terms of...
Yeah, just don't do it. Never start. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us. That was awesome.
I'm glad we could finally do it, guys. Thank you.
It's awesome. And it's nice knowing that there's another person from Geelong that I can enjoy, and other than the football players, because the football players really grind my gears. And I was getting sick of just having Adelita.
Oh, yeah. Wait, are you from Geelong too?
No, I'm not, but I'm a frequent visitor as a child, man. I sort of split my childhood between the Bellarine and Mornington Peninsulas. So,
I grew up Clifton Springs.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
I kind of feel sorry for both of you, but I grew up in Noble Park, so I can't really talk.
Anywhere that has Noble in its thing, it's I don't know. I don't know. Is Noble Park good, or it sounds like kind of nice, like posh? Or is it...
No. Have you been to Dandenong or Cranbourne?
Oh, yeah, I said, yeah, I have.
Well, yeah, then you pretty much know the demographic of Noble Park.
Well, then most of them probably watch Rusted On.
Yeah, there you go. Your fan base is actually from Noble Park. Yeah, they don't have Netflix, though, so you know that they're using a VPN and just illegally downloading it.
Oh, man, that's a compliment. I love it.
All right, we'll let you go, man, before we bag out too much of your key demographic.
All right, well, thank you very much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your night.
No worries. Great to talk to you guys. Thanks.
Yeah.
See you, man. Bye.
Bye.
That brings to an end another episode and another season of the Radults podcast. We hope that you've enjoyed your time with us today and that you've left both the episode and the season feeling inspired and empowered to go out and make your own creative dreams reality. As always, we ask that you like, rate, comment, follow, and subscribe to our content. And we'll be back with Season 3 in the not-too-distant future. In the meantime, And always, go out there and live life just a little bit more Radult.